This diagram illustrates the traditional Western model for building a nation-state. It relies on a strict, linear timeline of progress, neatly defined borders, and a singular, easily categorized national identity. But on the stroke of midnight, August 15, 1947, independent India was born, and that rigid European blueprint immediately fell apart. When you look closely at the scale of this independence, the sheer density and diversity of the millions of people involved, you realize that a neat geometric model cannot possibly contain this reality, which creates an enormous challenge for historians and writers. How exactly do you assemble the history of a brand new nation when its foundation is built on the fractured, complex, and traumatic legacy of colonial rule? Salman Rushdie addressed this directly in his novel Midnight's Children, later adapted into a 2012 film by Deepa Mehta. The story follows Saleem Sinai, a child whose birth happens to strike at the exact moment of midnight, tethering his personal life perfectly to the exact second the country is born. Saleem's life doesn't follow a clean, upward trajectory. His narrative forces the viewer to confront a difficult reality. Understanding a post-colonial state requires us to stop pretending it is a single, unified entity. We have to look past the illusion of the monolith and actually examine the shattered, pluralistic fragments that make up its true history. Political theorist Partha Chatterjee observed that post-colonial societies like India did not simply copy the prefabricated templates of European nationalism. Long before India actively contested the physical, material domain of the British colonial state, it asserted its sovereignty in an inner, spiritual domain, a space constructed out of language, deep-rooted culture, and local myth. While official statesmen governed the outer state with strict policies, the lived reality of citizens unfolded in a completely different, highly personal register. This animation shows the framework of Midnight's Children. Two separate timelines, the macro history of the state and Saleem's personal milestones, rapidly converge, smashing into a tangle. Here, national trauma dictates individual existence, and grand historical shifts are driven by chaotic personal tragedies. This brings up an immediate structural tension in how the story itself is delivered. There is an embedded paradox in trying to express an authentic indigenous Indian experience using English, the very language of the British Empire. Salman Rushdie bypassed this paradox by Chutnifying the language. He took standard English and bent it to fit the rhythms and idioms of the subcontinent. Deepa Mehta translates this to the screen by aggressively blending Hindi, Urdu, and English dialogue into a single continuous flow. The audio track jumps between these languages without pausing for formal translation. The characters speaking on screen are neither surrendering to strict imperial linguistic standards, nor are they throwing the English language away entirely. They take the tools left behind by the colonizers and actively appropriate them. By subverting the language, they build a uniquely indigenous, polyphonic reality that accurately reflects their fractured identities. We see the physical toll of carrying this intertwined history. Saleem Sinai's body begins to literally crack and crumble, developing deep fissures across his skin. This physical deterioration serves as a direct mirror for his situation. He is a single human being trying to bear the crushing weight of a newly independent nation's entire chaotic past within his own body. Place that solitary, crumbling individual against the reality of India's population, hundreds of millions of diverse voices and competing narratives, and the strain makes perfect sense. Saleem's disintegration illustrates the immense internal pressure of trying to force 1,000 different voices into a single cohesive narrative. Which leaves us with a final question. If the idea of a unified, monolithic nation-state is an illusion, what actually holds this society together? The answer requires a shift in perspective. Having a fragmented, pluralistic identity isn't a failure to meet traditional European standards. It is the definitive reality of post-colonial life. Deepa Mehta's cinematic framing positions the act of narrating as a direct mechanism for survival. Saleem survives by frantically gathering his chaotic, disparate memories and preserving them in written form, treating them with the exact same care as pickling spices in jars of chutney. This specific act of gathering the pieces and telling one's own story allows the citizens to reclaim their agency. It operates as a direct defense against the historical erasure enforced by colonial rule. Ultimately, the true history of this post-colonial nation thrives within the chaotic, indomitable chorus of its people's stories.